4-phase process. Our first phase is to assemble the design team. Our second phase is to conduct research, basically do the site analysis, look into some precedents, some case studies, and just basically other things that we're going to help us develop this program. Um, Phase 3 is to establish the spaces, see what spaces that we want, what spaces we're going to need. Basically, just look at what the basic program is going to look like as far as the spaces and the list of spaces. And then number 4 is to actually develop that program and to really look into the nitty-gritty, to just go into detail about what it's going to be like, how are the spaces going to feel, how is everything going to kind of come together, and really what is the atmosphere of the building. So we started with assembling the design team, and that includes everything from the architect to the consultant to the engineer, the landscape architect, even the students and the client. We wanted to bring everybody together into just one cohesive unit and just be part of a team, be part of just one large family, basically, and all work together to just try to do this the right way. So we started out by just asking a couple simple questions. What will the future of architecture look like? You know, I know nobody here is probably able to really see into the future, but just, you know, we wanted to really look into, like, what is it going to be like in 10 years? What is it going to be like in 20 years? Because students are going to be living this, and if this building can't keep up with the times, then, you know, we really didn't do our job. And what problems will students be facing several years into the future? Because I know right now we're always looking into the problems of our time. And so what will the students, you know, 10, 20 years down the road really be looking into, and what will be their problems? And what will the classroom environment look like in the future? Will it be, you know, hollow screens? Will it even be a physical classroom? Will it all be a virtual classroom? So just these are some of the things that we just kind of thought about and we really wanted to explore. Our process flow starts with, this is basically another synopsis of what our, really our approach is. And so we define the problem, we research the problem, and then in researching the problem, we also analyzed all the information that we were getting and then continue to do research upon that analysis. And then from the analysis, we began to develop the program. And from there, we continued to hop back and forth between developing the program and analyzing the information and how it pertains to the program. And from there, we developed our solutions. When we were beginning our research, we basically looked at what are the failures of traditional programming, and how does that, because I feel like if we don't know what the problem is, how are we going to fix the problem? And so we really wanted to look at what the failures of traditional programming is, and then try to solve those in programming for the future. And so we started out with the architect meeting with the client. And so we all just wanted to be on the same page, start out a conversation, start out really what was the client looking for in this building, and start from there and figure out really where do we want to go with this building and where do we want to be. And so as we started out with a charrette also to really just kind of develop some ideas, really try to build on the future, build on maybe, you know, just some random ideas, some, you know, where we were going, where we felt like we were going, what issues we felt like we were going to have, and all that kind of stuff. So we started out with a design charrette, and here are some of the things that we learned from that design charrette. Just kind of a development of spaces, a development of the relationship between the spaces, And we really looked for, how the spaces are going to be laid out, how people are going to interact in this environment, what kind of feel you need, all that kind of situation.
Okay. So our first meeting with the client, the architect acts as the liaison between the design team and the client before we assemble the rest of the design team. What the architect wants to do, he wants to establish what the client feels is most important about the building and its spaces, what the client feels about their goals, kind of a mission for the general concept of what they want the new school of architecture to be. So in the initial meeting, he gathers information and takes any questions and concerns that the client may have for the design team, and then takes it back to the design team to further program or rearrange or come up with things that may be necessary initially when dealing with the program. And one of the things that's very important, especially for designing building of the future, is having it being LEED. That's very important, being sustainable building more so. But LEED is just one way of determining if your building is sustainable. We looked at the LEED 2009 construction for major renovations, tried a list of checklists because we want to go for LEED Platinum. And we look at things that probably affect our programming as far as choosing the site. Well, sites were chosen, but how best to use the site, water reclamation, also recycle water, looking at the slope, orientation, solar, and a lot of these things do affect the way in which you program the spaces, where certain things will be located in order to be able to run efficiently. Here's the LEED standard as far as how to achieve platinum, how many points they're going to need. And that's why the LEED consultant is an important person to start off with the initial design in order to consult about what moves we need to make in order to to better design the building. So that way it fit the standard from start to finish. Okay, and here's our site analysis, current site, where the building is now. And here's the topography layout, just showing the steep grade, and it gets steeper a little bit north of the building. And here's space usage. One of the important thing about this is after the design shred, we wanted to kind of establish what spaces are important, establish a hierarchy of the spaces and how they're used and how they're needed. And so the one on the left is how students use the space. Obviously, students spend most of their time in the studio during the day, and then workshop is another small portion. Classrooms is another portion. Then you have the library, which is not so much, so that might not be important when we're looking to design the future school. Maybe the library will be smaller, maybe we'll have a digital library. And then you go over to the faculty, and of course, the studio. That's a lot of time they spend critiquing other students, and then their critique spaces, and then the offices, which that can be adjusted. Here's our schedule, how we went about it, meeting with the client. Some of these things overlap because it's a continual process. Research and analysis, that's going to be a continual process. So we get information, things change depending on, clients' needs, or maybe things that we find in the site and other things like that. So a lot of these things may overlap.
All right, so before we start doing, when we're already getting into like the spaces, those three questions that we kept asking ourselves, what is the future going to look like? We found a video that kind of inspired us on what possibility the classroom could look like, in architecture or in pretty much any classroom or any subject. This video for you guys. This is Intel's version of what the future is gonna look like. They already started doing prototypes, I guess, or what's it called, beta test in a couple schools overseas. So this actually started last year, and also there's Microsoft is also doing it. They have their way of doing it, which just depends on which company. But that's what kind of inspired us to program for our spaces. That's the way we envision. I mean, we do have laptops now, we have computer labs now, but in the future, as you can see, little kids just grab the tablet, just put the 3D model, and you can just start seeing how the stress levels is, or you can see if the building's going to be able to be buildable, or is it to collapse. You'll be able to learn, more subjects like structures better, instead of just learning it and just in one ear out the other.
From basically the inspiration that we got from that video, we tried to find maybe what that would look like in the built environment. And this is an office in Los Angeles, California, called the Hybrid Office. And basically what they tried to do was mix things from the natural and outside world into the everyday office environment. So like the desks are built to almost look like a line of houses right here. And so it almost looks like if you were going down a street. It has different varying heights of houses and things like that. And then they also have a seating area, arena type area with bookshelves on the bottom. And it's just a fun, interesting atmosphere that's multi-use. It's definitely, it's almost like a design build project because you have just the different surfaces, just the rawness of materials, and that kind of helped to inspire us. Another case study we did is on the ANZ Center in Australia, which is a banking headquarters, and it's a very, very large building, but they broke it down into different color schemes, into different areas. As you can tell by this picture right here, you basically have one floor on the top that's blue, the next one is yellow, the next one is red, and so they broke down all the spaces, and they're different environments, they're different for different people, for different ideas and different spaces. And it's just there's something new around every corner. And so we kind of wanted to make almost like a studio atmosphere or a classroom environment where it is different every room you go into, and it's always changing, and it's always, there's different colors, and there's different furniture, there's different spaces.
Now we're going to break it down by the spaces, starting with the studios. Just like how you guys saw, the studios is going to be something where the whole entire room can change at any given time. I mean, the screens could be the whole entire room, 360 panoramic projections. The professor could actually not be there. He can actually be projected if he wanted to. The rooms are going to be, some of them are going to be casual to the point where it's kind of like a little house in a way, as you can see. You kind of sleep there, kind of in the office space. So you kind of get the whole, both worlds where you kind of go to school, but then it's kind of like a practice atmosphere at the same time, because you are treated, you do have your own desk, you have your own area, cubicle, just like you would if you were going to the firm. Next space is the classrooms. The classrooms, we envision them to be very interactive, very, the desks themselves could be all touchscreen computers. That's already available now. It's just a matter of implementing into the correct areas like school education. They already kind of started. This is a render of an idea that Microsoft is going to be doing, where all the tables are pretty much touchscreen. So whatever the professor shows up on the table. You start working on your Revit model, start building that up, just like Iron Man. You guys saw Iron Man, all those movies where you start touching that. That's already available. It's just a matter of when it's going to go into the school system. Because if you think about it, that's where we're going. I mean, we have, from years ago, we had huge computers, so now we have little tablets. It's only going to keep getting better and better and better to the point where you can just start thinking something and just start writing down on a book or something. The video conference room, this is where you're going to have your critiques. This is a couple of rooms. As you can see, we envision them to be like the top room where everything is all panoramic. You just present your PowerPoint or your video render. Because technology is going to get so much faster to the point where you can do a video render in probably 10 minutes instead of 10 hours, how it is now. So it's going to be a requirement. More and more is starting to see that. Back in the days, renders weren't really a requirement. Now it's kind of a requirement. It's only the education. The cafe library space, this is a space where you could, it's like having Starbucks, but it's a little cyber cafe where you can go relax. You're gonna be here 24/7 most of the time, so if this is something that would be open at 24 hours a day, you can just go grab a coffee, just relax, read a book, get your mind out your, get your head out of your mind, or just send it the other way around. Just relax and then go back. Sometimes, just like doctors say, don't stare at the computer for hours and hours. You gotta go do something. Read tons of books of, work for 50 minutes, take a 5-minute break, and if you let your wrist like that, you get more work done. So this is a space where you can do that kind of stuff. Down there is a Dropbox headquarters. All these new companies like Google, Dropbox, even Snapchat, that application, they're starting to build, not building, they're starting to build campuses. So we took their ideas, because it builds rapport around their work job, it builds that atmosphere where you want to go to work. Well, why not take that into the school where you want to go to school? It's only going to make the school more valuable. People are going to be going back to school, learning more, and it'll stick to you easier. The computer fabrication lab, we do believe that laser cutters and 3D CNC machines and 3D printers will still be available. They're only going to get faster and faster and faster to the point where, just like I guess saw in the video, the little girl just made a little connection. She just sent it up to the 3D printer, it prints out, and you can just test it out. So just imagine doing that with your building. Professor could be like, do a real section, you can do it in like an hour, and you'll be able to learn more, you'll be able to understand, and it's also going to help us for becoming better architects, because you're kind of going to be evolving into this structural engineer, architect, just all this personal one. The intelligent workplace, this is an area where how now we have our own cubicles, but when we have classrooms like in studio, professors like to meet around the table somewhere. Well, instead of going to a normal table and just meeting around, this is a place where you can go, it's kind of a little lounge. There's going to be several of these located in the school, and you can just go there. These spaces are meant to be hands-on, so they can change, the tables moves, everything moves. You bring your materials there, because we do believe first year, second year, you still do have to have that hands-on experience. You can't just go straight to the computer world. We feel that you're not going to be able to learn what true architecture is really about. It's just like painting, you got to learn from the bottom on up. Somehow you got to build your foundation. So these are spaces where professors can go there. You got group meetings, they'll be located throughout the whole entire school. The faculty offices, professors, they pay their dues already. Why not give them somewhere to relax, somewhere it's inviting, instead of having this jail cell kind of cubicle with no windows. It'll be better to, just have an inviting space, and also give that connection between you walking by the professor's office, you just want to go in there, hey, how you doing? Can you help me out on this PowerPoint or this critique on this render or something? And we'll just build this connection instead of having these walls. So that's what we thought. The clear glass facade would be nice, or even just cubicles that are open with no doors. The exhibit space, this is the space where you're going to be pinning up for your finals, but in this case, there's no more pinning up. It's more just projecting it. This is a space where the walls is going to be interactive. As you can see, this down here is a smart board. So let's say you show your projector. While you're presenting, you could be zooming into your picture. You can be drawing onto your picture, and it happens onto the screen. You can say, this is why I did this connection. This is the reason why I did this, this, and that. And it'll be live. And then this down here is an area that we envision to have where you pin up your projections all throughout the facade. So and it'll be there 24/7 throughout the school year for that semester for the final project. So like they'll still be projected onto the windows and walls as a gallery in a sense. And the assembly area, this is where our lectures are going to happen. Of course, everything's going to be on 3D panoramic projection. So just imagine, instead of being in a little tiny red room, being in a giant space where you could, relax, breathe, hold more people. You'll be able to see what they're actually talking about on the huge projection screen, and then it just goes 360 where they can just do it throughout the whole entire room, and that's pretty much concludes the presentation.
I'm still confused about what the team is doing. You got this big group of people, and you keep talking about the architect do this and architect that. You never mention the programmer again. Is there a programmer?
Yes.
What do they do? And why? And who's in charge? And you know, it seems like you immediately put together this big team, and then how does all this happen in a large group? Somebody's got to have, you know, there's got to be a distinction in what the roles are continuing all the way through. Not, it's like you went over that so quickly, the way you work, and I'm confused by it.
We kind of cut a lot of stuff out.
The architect is mainly the supervisor. He's the one who's the orchestrator of the entire design team. So the architect acts as a liaison, like I said earlier, between the design team and the client. The design team is still, like, the client is still part of the design team, but whereas they
Is it the design team or the programming team?
It's the, when I say design team, that includes the programmer, includes the
So
programmer.
what's the
and
relationship
consultant.
between programming and design that you're assuming in this?
That design, as far as when I say design, has more so to do with aesthetics and more so of the architectural qualities, whereas programming is strictly programming as far as setting up the spaces, square footages, different, I guess.
We want them to understand the character of the building. We want to give them a good foundation so that when the programmer puts the program together, they're not just building these boxes. They understand that this is the stuff that we envision. So we didn't necessarily tell them, okay, it has to be this big, but we're like, this is what we're going for.
So let me understand this. Everything you've presented up till now is not what you consider the program.
Yeah, that all
Is
that
this the program?
So it's, no, the final program, no, it's, we have it, this is what, all this leads to the program. Then that's what we're gonna present to you.
This is more so conceptual, getting an idea of how the program, I guess, will be set up. The programmer already has some, I guess, some say, he's already met with the architect. Now that the client and the architect already have.
So this is showing us step 1 and 2, but not step 3.
Yeah.
Step 3 being putting together
That's
the actual
yeah,
program.
that's,
But why wouldn't a lot of this material go into the program? Wouldn't it?
Well-
Wouldn't a lot of the program isn't just a list of
Yeah.
rooms,
Right.
yeah.
right?
Right. But.
Sorry, Tim, you wanna
No, go ahead.
jump in? I mean, it's all very nice. You got a nice show. A lot of your graphics didn't read very well because you obviously didn't project them on a screen and look at them from back. I couldn't read a lot of the lettering because it was washed out by the background. And your video was something that we didn't need to see all of that. And the music was not necessary. You could have been talking.
Okay.
So, you know, even though it's a great show, I have concerns about what you did.
Well, I'll start with the pluses. It was a slip show, and I like how fervently you guys look at the future, how material might be engaged, and how students might navigate the architectural education process, and it's an exciting future. Something that to me is useful sometimes is to equate programming with the levels of, let's say, achievement within architecture. And a lot of times you hear how some sort of a design can be just shelter. If it's a little better, it's building. If it's better still, it's architecture. If it's really good, it's architecture, bold caps, bold type, and all caps. And I think programming is the same way. What I'd like a little more of in your thing, I think you've done a really good job of entering into the world of things and art and spaces and scenery and technology. But what I want a little more of is the world of overarching concepts which might govern some of this. While on the one hand, I think you've done a good job of looking into the future, for me, it's still just stuff. It's futuristic stuff, but it's stuff. And what I want to know is, how can you elevate this to programming in bold types and bold type and all caps? How do you rise to the level of insight and conceptual wisdom in this? you know, for example, I'll just throw this out, which you may or may not disagree with. If this is true to the future, then what about the core competencies in the students themselves? To me, it's not all just about the latest gizmo. What are the abiding values that students need to take into the future? How will this get at that? Another thing would be, what does all this imply about the shell of the architecture? If this is true, then the future is about change. I'd expect some discussion about flexibility, and because what you're looking at here is the future as far as you can see it, but you're making a big deal of the future. So you can't stop with this view of the future. You have to say this is going to go on, which makes some comments about the shell and its flexibility. That's what I mean by what are the next level up ideas that might give you, let's say, an overarching understanding of this.
Yeah, and I like that comment, because what I am also missing is, so what's the overall, perhaps the overall image that you would go for the building in this context of this community, housing across the street, you know, and how do you want the overall feel of the building? Remember, we talked about how you can introduce terms that begin to suggest the sense of place that you create. And you've given us bits and pieces of it, but there's this overarching part to it too. We need to get the next group starting to set up. We can continue to talk while they're doing that, but.
They're ready. They're ready.
Okay. Anybody in the class want to add anything to what we saw in this group? Don't be shy. Do you like this future that they're envisioning? Is this something that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting.
That's what you wish we had now? Des?
Yeah, the part about the classroom, I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and it's like the mayor or governor, I forgot who it was in San Antonio, Texas. He, in the 1990s, he pushed for an all printed library, like all books need to be printed, but now he pushed for an all digital library. And the library right now the library has notebooks, Apple computers, tablets, rooms where there are presentations and people are doing digital learning and everything. So they are asking me, what do you think about the future? Because this is an idea concept that people most likely won't take a liking, probably a liking to. And he said, well, if I can change, so can you. So it's either.
Well, did you see his home library? I saw the show, and
yeah,
it's a magnificent collection of first edition books.
Right.
And everything. So he already had what he wanted. Yeah, that was a good show. That was a good. All right, let's move to the next group here. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to getting your report.
Good morning, my name is Ricky Mason.
I'm Jerome Gang. I work right now. Dominic Joe.
And this is our project, the New School of Design. Our concept is to create a new school of design which will encompass several disciplines. These disciplines will encompass planning, design, and construction. All these disciplines put together will create a new school of design in which everyone would be, although each discipline would be separate, everyone would be working together on projects. We decided to provide this plan to create a feeling within the building where everybody is working together on projects. It emulates the real world, so that when our students graduate and go out, they would be better equipped to deal with situations and understand each other's field. This is our table of content. Phase 1, pre-design process.
Now, in the pre-design process, we took care of the roles of the client, who's Dominic, and this idea is to hire the architect, the program, and the contractor. Then myself, the architect, I'm in charge of meeting with the client, ascertaining his needs, meeting with the programming to understand his role, meeting with the contractor to determine the site is feasible. The programmer meets with the architect to determine the spaces, and the contractor discuss the issues with the architect to find out how best to construct the building. Now, the core group is the architect, the programmer, the consultant, the client. Then it's the architect's responsibility to develop the integrated design team, which includes the commissioning agent, the mechanical engineer, the electrical engineer, the interior designer, the building operator, and the building users. Then we start the integrated design process, which starts off with a kickoff design workshop. We do it to develop a concept design, and then it continues on further to determine the structural type, the building design envelope, the electrical engineer for the lighting and power design, and the HVAC engineer to determine heating and cooling. All of it come back in feedback loops until we come up with a good model to establish our green building goals, which is to establish a building that has non-renewable resources, good indoor environmental quality, and long-term performance.
So what we did was started out like by looking at the research first, what we wanted to incorporate within the building. So we pretty much did a group deliverable, looked at new types of technologies, incorporating the new disciplines within the school, and we pretty much what we did from there was pretty much just look into research, start building like program until we eventually came out with a final pretty much a program that we were satisfied with. So here you can pretty much see our schedule, our research process, and our programming, and what we did was pretty much was broken up in pieces. Each part were fun, but when it came down to at the end, we all came together as a group and looked at it. We reviewed it, and we saw if it was feasible or not feasible, and then we will revise it and keep moving on forward. So pretty much what we did meetings. We met as a group. We discussed what our responsibilities were, where we wanted the new school to look in 20, 30 years from now. By incorporating this new types of disciplines that we wanted, like the incorporation. So instead of just us being up here like architects, that we each take a role, there'll be an incorporation of different disciplines within that role. So we were all working within as a group, and then from there we looked at what we wanted to do next, look at the new technologies and everything. So the second phase was looking at different disciplines.
And different disciplines, we wanted to find out which type of disciplines we want to integrate with the new school design. So the type of disciplines are besides architecture is urban design, landscape design, industrial design, interior design, and construction management. For example, we want to include landscape architecture, which is seen by Boston Architectural College. Next, we have interior design as seen from New York School of Interior Design. We want to provide a school of industrial design where students will design equipment, they'll design machinery as well as furniture, that's seen by Georgia Tech. We want to expose students to urban planning, where they'll be exposed to master planning and zoning ordinances. And also construction engineering, where students will be exposed to looking at plans, they do site investigations and understand what it is to work in the field.
Phase 3, technologies and equipment. In this meeting, this meeting included the client, the programmer, the architect, and the construction consultant. We discussed many equipment and technologies which was proposed for this new school of design, what the client wanted to put in, and also other new technologies which we can also use. We also identify equipments we would also use, and decide if we would need rooms for that and where it would be located within the building, and if it needs a room for it, where it would be programmed into the building. Many of the technologies we looked at are climate simulated lab, wind tunnel testing equipment, integrated projectors and classroom which also includes smart boards, hands-on construction studios, holographic imaging technology, digital prefabricated equipment, 3D technologies, and media rooms. We decided to have all of this in the new School of Design. For instance, in the future, if we decide If we want to create, by putting all of this together, in the future, our building could become a research school also, because we have the labs and technology to carry on. Continue. Some of the building technologies which we decided that we would use, which we came up with and proposed for our new school of design is solar roofs, which would reduce the cost on energy consumption by this new building.
And this would also expose the students to what was being presented on terms of green building design.
Also, we also looked at the new technology of solar cladding, which will be used on the south side of the building to maximize the sun and the use of the sun's energy to reduce costs in our building also. Another green sustainable design and another sustainable idea we had was also to put green roofs. The green roof would also be maintained by the School of Landscaping, which would be on the top floor. The green roof would also be a terrace area, and it would reduce the energy consumption by the building, keeping the building cooler, reduce the amount of water from storm drainage, and make the building more aesthetically.
And this will also be like a place where we can go out there, is pretty much look at relaxed area side and everything like that. That people can just stand out there, look at the vegetation, look at the views from the site.
As a construction engineer, I also proposed to the team that we use steel structure, which is prefabricated steel structure, which could get on site pretty quickly. It would reduce how long the building would take to construct, and also it would be cheaper and stronger and lightweight. We could have longer spans with this structure. Other structural elements that we would include is brick to also put our building in context with the rest of campus, and also to give it that modern feel that would attract many students to want to come to our school. We also would include the glass steel structure with also shading devices in certain areas of the building. Sustainable technology that would be used as all mounted solar systems on the roof, solar cladding on the south facades, green roofs, and terrace.
So what we did, we looked at the research, we looked at everything we wanted to incorporate, and we broke it down to the little parts like the equipment, environment, the school disciplines, the facilities for the new building, and advanced technologies. And we pretty much started to create like a program. And what we did, we built this program, and then we pretty much talked to the client, talked to the architect, different ways, and we reviewed the program. There were some changes that needed to be done, so it was a back and forth kind of collaboration before we pretty much were able to create like a space program from there. So we looked at site analysis, which is our next phase.
In this phase, the client architect and construction consultant meet to kind of look at the site factors that we need to pay attention to, such as like spatial relationships to the buildings adjacent to us. This is a very crucial part of our project. Whenever you have to work on a project, you need to be able to look at the site and see how your new building will fit into the context. You have views, you have traffic, and other elements like just the surrounding neighborhoods that you want to be given like a handshake to, but not really arm wrestling to compete for the space. So these are some of the adjacent buildings next to us. Existing SO. Pretty much the conditions on the site will remain the same. We're not trying to overly change the slopes, but we will try to take advantage of that by building in that space.
Phase 5 building precedence. This meeting in phase 5 includes the client, the architect, and the programmer. We review the different types of school for design to be conducted that reflects the new discipline that will now integrate within Family School of Design. An investigation of the building precedents will be done for clients' review and approve. design. The architect is sitting with the programmer and the rest of the crew, the clients, to come up with like in this stage, the architect is proposing different precedent studies that he has done, and of other schools that have similar ideas as to what we want to bring about in our new school of design.
So what we wanted to do is incorporate like different type of like student lounges and facility lounges. It kind of has a better interaction of incorporating the colors into the areas, more feasible area where you see now. Pretty much right here we don't really have that, so we wanted to incorporate that idea of like a group community inside the building.
To create a more vibrant environment.
Another thing we did was look at the libraries. I know the libraries right now pretty much is barely used. It's used, but it's still limited. And we wanted to incorporate like the new type of technology, like bringing in computers in where now it's not just all reading. Now you have access to the computers more, different, bringing more light into the area, making it more inviting to that space. And then what we did was look at how we wanted to use this type of atrium. We wanted that space where you can still probably stand up or you can project out projects, but was also usable to that area where you can have sitting and sitting into the area and also have natural lighting. So from there we were able to build a program. This was pretty much bringing in the client and the architect and finding the ways that all the research that we did and pretty much building this program that we wanted with the new types of technology and incorporating all the different disciplines within the project for the new school. So this was just pretty much the kind of like the incorporation of what we brought into, looking at everything we had collected, bringing in spaces for the different studios and new technologies for spaces for like prefab and lasers and all that stuff.
So this is the design charrette phase. Pretty much again having a meeting with the client, architect, and programmer to discuss the possibilities of the spatial experiences throughout the building and orientation, important things, other key programs that will be implemented in the project. This is just a brief summary of our agenda, looking at again key issues, got health, accessibility, other programs that will contribute to the success of this program. We wanted to, again, some of these are programs that our school will host, and some of these are other programs that will be collaborating with the city and Habitat, various different other groups to reach that collaboration. We wanted to work on historic preservation projects throughout the neighborhoods, have show homes. We want to have a global climate testing facility. That will be a collaborative effort, which would test conditions around the world, looking at extreme cold, heat, winds, floods, earthquakes. We want to have a facility that would test energy biosciences and that would develop alternative energies. Some more facilities that look at materials and products, on-campus projects, and so on. This is just a holistic kind of approach to the way we're thinking and the way that we wanted to build in the flow. Again, looking at the spatial connections on the left side, and on the other side, we're looking at, going how you would matriculate through the spaces, going from the first level and up to the top level. The bottom's kind of looking at different facades, starting to treat the different fenestrations. And, here is, so our whole approach is to create an attractive building that would attract students to come to our school. We're doing that by using steel, glass, brick, and concrete.
So now we decided to come up with 3 different concept diagrams of what the space would look like and what the spaces would be adjacent to each other. So we have concept number 1 where the largest space is the studio space, and that's gonna be the space that there's gonna be a lot of student concentration, followed by the library and the atrium and the lecture rooms. We decided to come up with concept number 2 where the 4 main spaces, which is the studios, the atrium, the lecture rooms, and the library will be all equal. And it would provide access and space for students to be involved in. We have concept number 3 where we have the studios, lecture rooms, library, and atrium have a certain level of importance with the spaces surrounding it acting as support. And that,
In our vision, we discuss School of Design, SOD, extend far beyond the present framework. We believe that by offering attractive, innovative programs within our design school, that it will provide growth and top funding for our students here at Florida A&M University. One of the prime functions of our school is to lead through example, not by following. This will be done by envision our world 20 to 30 and 50 years into the future.
I just want to
This is
clarify.
our sources.
Okay, good. We only have a couple minutes left. I want to clarify that, Tim, the design charrette is something we actually did as a group. We had a session where we broke up into teams and everybody that had a design charrette as part of their process ran an actual design charrette. What I want to know is, you've got those 4 concepts. What are you going to do with them? How do you know what to? How do you figure out what? I mean, you could have started off with those arbitrarily at the beginning.
well, that's
Wouldn't all the research and all the studying suggest that one of them is better?
Yeah, but it's up to the client review and approval. We just gave him 3 concepts for him to review, and he'll make the decision in terms of which one he'll want.
Sound like that's right now.
You're assuming an enlightened client.
Well, the client is involved in the process. We created an integrated design team, so no matter what, he's involved and he's kept abreast of what's going on.
Well, I can respond to that. Oftentimes, not always, and you have to be careful with this. The architect has more of a sense for visualizing possible futures than the client does. And while the architect has to be careful not to become a czar, kind of take over and bully the client, sometimes the architect has to gently lead the client into being able to see what's possible. So if you're looking for architecture and not just building, I'm not saying it applies to this situation, but you've got to be good at sizing up what kind of visionary the client is. And if they're not, and you want architecture and not just building, then you have another kind of job to do, which is lead them and show them the possible world.
You know, I think in several of these, the whole charrette idea and developing a conceptual design was not the final step, but a step before you finalize the program as kind of a research activity. Could you discover things in that process that you maybe didn't think about in other ways? And is that the role that the charrette played in yours? What was it doing?
Well, the charrette really is just an inspiration for us to determine where the building would go, what type of appearance it would have. And it would influence the concept diagrams that we established. But
does it add more to the program in terms of ideas and things that?
We would like to think so, yeah.
You know, your early explanation sounded like the Bauhaus.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys looked at the Bauhaus as a model or not, but if you didn't, when you're sort of flirting with something like that, you may want to just square up and look at it and see what they did, including physical exercise, meditation, the whole person thing before they would attempt to produce creative things. your slides, and I like the amount of attention you gave to process. I can visualize how you're going to proceed. Or another way of saying this is your way of working. You know, if I'm sitting here, let's say in the client mode, and you're giving me a spiel on what you're going to do, I could pretty much track it and be sort of comfortable with what you're about to move me into. You know, I think that was a strong aspect of your presentation.
Yeah, it was a little misleading when you said this meeting. It seems like things only happen in the meeting. But isn't the meeting just kicking off a new phase, and then you guys go out and do work?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and you could have even identified the date and time the meeting occurred, and described it as the goals for the next phase, and then that's what was established in the meeting.
I feel what we intended was for the meeting to kind of show what we worked on up until that phase, and then the deliverables for the next phase. But
Yeah.
Well, I want to end with a metaphor, which is trying to make the point I was trying to make with the first group, and I think it applies to you guys too. I'd like for you to think of programming like panning for gold. First of all, you got to fill your pan with dirt, which is the information itself. But you're looking for the nuggets. You're looking for what we as architects call the take. You know, what is your take on the project? Which is trying to find something in the pan which rises to the level at which you're willing to push off of it with conceptual thinking. If you don't look for nuggets, then you're going to respond to the dirt, and you'll have building, but you won't have architecture. And so what I want to urge you guys to do is keep looking for the nuggets, so that what you wind up eventually including in presentations and documents is the nuggets, which is your take, which is this elevated place you found to push off of conceptually, which leads to elevated conceptual schemes. To me, that's what was missing in both of these.
And it relates back to the earlier discussions we had about critical thinking and analysis, and difference between data and information and wisdom. You know, that whole process, and that's all part of that, searching for gold. Okay, we have one more group to go on Wednesday, and then we'll use the rest of that class to wrap up.
Oh, yeah.